Hey kids, we have a really spooky episode for you tonight. We're gonna play all the games where you play as the monster. I'm Count Auntie and my assistant, Deadhead Head. And we are Arm-Length Interviews.
First up, kids, The Haunting starring Poltergeist. This game was released in 1993 by EA for the Sega Genesis.
You star as Poltergeist. Just a regular teenage guy with a high top fade.
That's a sweet fade.
It is.
It is.
Except for the green, and he's got the...
Yeah.
What is that? What is that all about?
That's because he's dead.
He's got a flesh-colored nose, but everything else is green. Anyway, you star as a leather-clad wearing kid.
Rides a skateboard.
Rides a skateboard.
Oh,
dies.
Oh,
dies.
Yeah, he dies.
He dies. He dies while riding a skateboard. What it does say is that the Sardini family had this faulty company making faulty skateboards, and they got their high-priced lawyers to totally eradicate the fact that they had any connection to the skateboard company to begin with. So now Poltergeist on the scene to get some justice.
Justice, yeah. In The Haunting starring Poltergeist, the object of the game is that you're in the Sardini family home and you need to scare each family member out of the house. And in doing so, you need to possess everyday ordinary items, TV, VCRs, stereos, refrigerators, and get them to go out of the house. Now what's difficult about this is that, and what kind of drove me nuts, is that you can scare them deeper into the house, which means you have to go back out and scare them back out again. It can be really frustrating.
You have different colored lights which are associated with different actions in the game. A blue light means that you can inhabit the object and it'll shake around and attract their attention. A green light will attract their attention, but in a totally different way. Basically, you're moving the object around the room like a remote-controlled object, scaring the crap out of them. A yellow light, they get close to it, activate the scare, and that scares them.
You have a limited amount of ectoplasm to work with, and when that depletes, you get transported into the underworld.
Yeah, it's basically a dungeon where you're going around and trying to avoid different monsters like arms coming out of the wall and bats flying out. And basically all you're doing is trying to collect ectoplasm to get back to the real world.
As long as you don't die while trying to collect your gooey goodness. The cutscenes in this game use lots of ridiculous 90s slang that I've never used. And
at the time it seemed totally appropriate. Like, this'll never go away. In the beginning of the game, if you don't hit start and you just let the character buyers roll through, it'll eventually come to the sisters, who says her hero was the inventor of DDT.
Oh, Jake the Snake Roberts. Dude was badass in the 90s. Dave Ralston and John Salwitz did the graphics for the game, and they also contributed to 720 and Paperboy.
Will Noble, who was the lead animator in this game, was involved in the cult film classic Twice Upon a Time. Now, the isometric view of this game, which is exactly the same for 720 and Paperboy, really lent itself well to this style of gameplay. This was definitely a good footnote in EA's history. I mean, most people wouldn't think so. It wasn't a very popular game, but at the same time, I don't know, there were just a lot of really cool things happening in this game.
So speaking of Poltergeist, do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, of course. Don't you?
No.
How can you not believe in ghosts?
Dude, I don't believe in ghosts. If I believed in ghosts, would I do this? Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. Would I recite the dreaded words from the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead? Clatu Vrata Nictu. Would I do this? Would I recite from the Handbook of the Recently Deceased? Hands vermilion, start a thaw. Bright cotillion, ravens die. Nightshade's promise, spirits strive. To the living, let now the dead come alive. See, nothing happened. Next up, we have Capitec, which was released for the Sega Genesis in 1991.
It was based on the Mega Drive title, Magical Hat Flying Turbo Adventure.
I could have swore you just said Mega Drive. Mega Drive.
The Mega Drive. We got some Mega Drive going up and on here.
Dude, so in this game, you would just like be a mummy dude, right? And you would be flying your head off. And the thing is, when I was playing this game, I would like throw my head off and I wouldn't find it again. And then I would just be left with the chest part going, blah, blah, blah. Having been built from the ground up, you wouldn't be able to tell that this was the same game as the Japanese title. The graphics were different, the sound was different, everything was different.
Except for the fact that the mechanics were almost exactly the same.
Yes. You take your head off and throw it instead.
And in a Magical Hat Turbo Flying Adventure, you would throw, what, an egg?
Yes.
Yeah, was it an egg? I think it was an egg. In this game, you play as Chuck D. Head, who was created by Dr. Frank N. Stein to defeat the villain, Max D. Cap.
Yeah, Chuck D. Head, I really liked his second rap album that he came out with.
Yeah, so did I.
Ways of dispatching enemies in Capitec are throwing the skull-shaped head at enemies and shooting out the torso portion face. And you can also jump on enemies a la Mario.
Next up, we have Splatterhouse. Splatterhouse was released for the arcade in 1989 and later for the TurboGrafx 16 in 1990.
That's right. And the gore and blood was drastically toned down for the TurboGrafx 16. The sound effects in the arcade there was definitely, I love playing this game in the arcade because it was almost like you could feel like hitting the the hatchet to the undead creatures, and you would hear the splat and the thud, and they took that all away for the TurboGrafx 16.
Now, later on it was released for the Genesis. They released, not Splatterhouse 1, but they released Splatterhouses 2 and 3, which again, very subpar considering what was, released earlier. But the Jason Friday the 13th mask that he was wearing in the first one was changed more to a skull-like thing to try and get away from that whole idea that, okay, it's just a rip-off of Friday the 13th.
Which I don't know why. I kind of loved Friday the 13th. I would have really liked the actual Friday the 13th video game to be more like Splatterhouse than giving me the excruciating frustration of Friday the 13th for the Nintendo.
Oh God, was that mad?
I just thought I wasn't good enough to beat Friday the 13th. I didn't know that it was impossible. In Splatterhouse, you play the character of Rick, who along with his girlfriend Jennifer are parapsychology students. And for some reason that I can't remember, you enter the mansion of Dr. West, and you get attacked, and Jennifer gets taken away, and you wake up with this mask on your face, and now you have to find her. Splatterhouse also received a 2010 reboot for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, but you can skip those.
Yeah, you could probably get them, even if you wanted to buy it. New, it's super cheap. But what was great about these games was just the amount of gore and disgustingness.
Yeah, on second thought, if you are a fan of horror, like I am, you can get Splatterhouse for fairly cheap nowadays at your local video game store. One thing about Splatterhouse 2 and 3 is that even though they did tone down the gore, I do remember a lot of extra things they put in there that I would consider offensive. Me being a father, they have a scene where they have these hanging babies.
Yeah.
And you want to cut out the sound of the hatchet hitting, flesh and bone, but yeah, we just put some hanging babies in there and I don't care.
That's fine.
One of my favorite scenes in Splatterhouse, I believe it's 2, is
the boat scene?
The boat scene, to where the thing is in Splatterhouse 2, actually you can go to different rooms by pressing up. And one of the things I found fun, toward the end of the game, you're on a boat, and this huge squid demon monster is following you, and your girlfriend Jennifer, after you found her, And if you press up, it looks like he's peeing off the boat. For some reason, I just find that freaking hilarious.
It does, it really does. You don't know what he's doing over there. Like, what's he looking at? The squid! Got this giant squid like...
And he's like, I gotta pee! Next up, we have Demon's Crest. Demon's Crest was released by Capcom in 1994 for the Super Nintendo. In this game, you play as Firebrand, who made his original appearance in Ghosts and Goblins.
Actually, this is the third game in the series. The first was Gargoyle's Quest for the Game Boy, and then the follow-up was Gargoyle's Quest 2 for Nintendo.
The covers of those games always make me laugh. It's like, hey! It's all like, you know, when you play the game and you're like this rough and tough gargoyle and stuff, but you look at the cover of the first one, you saw like... Demon's Crest had a lot of RPG elements thrown in for a predominantly side-scrolling action title, which was complete with magical spells and overworld map.
Now, the overworld map used a lot of Mode 7 effects like Legend of Zelda did and ActRaiser. Really cool, like you're flying over the land, and it just looked really awesome. This game has you collecting crests, which allows you to change into different demonic forms so you can get through different parts of the game.
Yeah, and they were elemental based, such as earth, wind, and fire. I really love this game because I'm an RPG fan, and the fact that it allows you to change into different elemental forms and have magic spells and you collect things, and it has the overworld map a la Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior. I really think you should try this game out. And lastly, we have Altered Beast. Originally released in the arcade in 1988, it was a pack-in for the Sega Genesis before Sonic.
This game was designed by Makoto Uchida, who also developed the game Golden Axe, which is probably why you see the rideable character in Golden Axe, the cockatrice, also in Altered Beast.
You play as a nameless Roman centurion who is tasked by Zeus to save the goddess Athena from the demon Neph.
One of the coolest things about this game was the blue orbs you collected from the two-headed blue beasts. And every single time you grabbed one of them, you would bulk up a little bit more and a little bit more until eventually you turned into a beast personality. And there was 5 different ones. There was the werewolf, there was Thunder Dragon, there was Bear Man, Tiger Man, and then finally the Golden Werewolf.
Now, if you didn't capture the 3 blue orbs originally, you would have to keep repeating the level until you captured the 3 orbs.
And then you would eventually get to the end boss, and until you were totally powered up by the end boss, you couldn't finish the level. It would just keep repeating over and over and over again. And eventually, when you're all powered up and you finally go through the entire level, you get to Neph and then he transforms and he goes, "Welcome to your doom."
It sounded exactly like that.
Kind of.
Welcome to your doom.
Fun fact, Matthew Sweet named his 4th album Altered Beast from this game.
Mike Patton's one side project band, Mr. Bungle, he sampled Rise from Your Grave for the song Egg. Recently in the Disney Pixar movie Wreck-It Ralph, you see Neph's Rhinoceros Man form during the support group for Badanon.
Altered Beast was a great game to play back in the day with its large sprites, and it's a very arcade look.
If you really like the nostalgic look of these older arcade games, Altered Beast is definitely worth the look.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching.
If you guys like what you see, please comment down below or subscribe.
Or send us an email at armlengthinterviews@gmail.com.
Until next time, I'm Andy.
And I'm Eddie.
And we're Arm Length Interviews.
ArmLengthInterviews.
Exactly. Spooky. Whew, spooky stuff.